Hey everyone and welcome. So today, we're going to learn some basic Italian questions and answers by getting to know a character we'll call Matteo. It's a really fun way to get your first conversations going.
But before we dive in, just a quick heads up. This is an experimental pilot project made by AI, so you might spot a few little errors here and there. Thanks for your understanding.
Okay, so here's what we've got on tap. First, we'll find out who Matteo is. Then we'll look at his life in Italy. After that, we'll follow him to London, pull it all together in a summary, and then it's your turn to practice. Sound good? All right, let's jump right in.
All right, first up, let's get into the essentials. How to ask about who someone is and where they're from. You know, these are the real building blocks for any introduction. This is probably one of the first questions you'll ever ask someone when you meet them. It just helps you get a sense of who they are right from the start. Okay, check this out, because this is super interesting. In English, we put the word from at the end of the sentence, right? Where is he from? Well, in Italian, its buddy, di, comes right at the start of the question. Di dove? Literally, from where? That's a really key difference to lock in.
So let's see how this actually works. The question is, di dove è Matteo? Now you've got two great options for the answer. You can go at the nationality, è italiano, he is Italian. Or you can be more specific and name the city, è di Genova, he is from Genoa. Either one works perfectly.
Okay, so now that we know where Matteo's from, let's dig a little deeper. Next up, we're going to find out about his life right now by asking where he lives and what he does for a living. These are just two perfect follow-up questions to learn more about someone's day-to-day life and what they're all about. All right, so here are the key phrases you're going to need. To ask where does he live, you say dove abita. Pretty simple, dove just means where. For his job, you ask che lavoro fa, which literally means what work does he do? And you know what, we can get even more specific. If you wanted to ask who he lives with, you'd say con chi abita? And look at that. See how just like with di dove, the word con, which means with, pops right up to the front of the question. The answer is simple. Abita con la sua famiglia. And this is what's so cool about Italian. There's some real flexibility here. When you ask che lavoro fa, you've actually got a few ways to answer. The simplest is just to say what he is, è commerciante. Or you could use the verb to do, which is fare, fa il commerciante. Or even the verb to work, lavorare, lavora come commerciante. All three are totally common and correct.
So it turns out Matteo actually travels for his job as a merchant. So let's kind of follow him on a work trip and learn how to talk about traveling and what you do in a new place.
Okay, the verb you need to know here is viaggiare, which means to travel. So for example, if you say, Matteo viaggia per lavoro, that means Matteo travels for work.
So how does he get around? You'd ask, come viaggia, and come means how. The answer gives us another great tip. In Italian, you use the little word in to say you're traveling by something. So, viaggia in macchina or in aereo, by car or by plane.
Okay, so he's in London. What does he actually do there? Let's find out what Matteo's up to when he's traveling for business.
Well, it looks like he's having a pretty good time soaking up the local culture. He eats fish and chips, he drinks beer, and he knows the museums and restaurants. And this last one's interesting. Parla poco francese. He speaks a little French. Maybe he gets to practice while he's there.
All right, we've learned a ton about Matteo using all our new questions. Now let's actually hear what it sounds like when he puts it all together to introduce himself.
So I'm going to read this little paragraph as if I were Matteo. Your job is to listen up and see how many of those phrases we just learned you can catch. Ready?
Sono Matteo, sono italiano e sono di Genova. Abito a Milano con la mia famiglia. Di lavoro faccio il commerciante. Ora sono a Londra, ma domani torno a Milano.
Now that means, I'm Matteo, I'm Italian, and from Genoa. I live in Milan with my family. For work, I'm a merchant. Now I am in London, but tomorrow I return to Milan. Isn't that cool? You can literally hear all those little pieces we learned. Sono di Genova, abito a Milano, all coming together. You guys are doing great. Okay, so we have a really good picture of who Matteo is. So now for the big question. Can you use these exact same tools to talk about yourself? It's time to put it all into practice.
I mean, think about it. We've covered how to talk about your name, where you're from, where you live, and what you do for work. How would you answer those questions about you in Italian?
Okay, use this table right here as your cheat sheet. The first question, come ti chiami, means what is your name? And you'd answer mi chiamo.
and then say your name. This is a great spot to pause and actually try filling in the blanks for yourself. Go on, give it a shot.
And hey, don't worry about getting it perfect on the first try. That's not the point. The whole point is just to practice. These phrases right here, they're your ticket to starting real, fun conversations with Italian speakers.
And just like that, we're at the end of our little explainer. So I'll leave you with one final thought. Now that you've got these questions in your back pocket, which one are you going to use first when you meet a new Italian friend? Thanks so much for joining us.
Ciao!